Thank you everyone for joining us this morning. The cataloging committee is always one of my favorite user group events. So thank you to Jonathan and Richard for the content that you have prepared for everyone today. I am excited to hear some updates from Jonathan as our cataloging committee chair. And then Richard Ashby is going to talk to us about his work with Literacy Nation. Richard came up to our booth at PALA and we immediately started talking about how really truly important cataloging is to equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging work in libraries. And so I'm thrilled to be able to spend some time talking about this morning. So I will let Jonathan take it away. He's got a couple updates and then we'll go to Richard.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Pardon me. I'd like to welcome you all to the cataloging session of the Spark Annual User Group meeting. My name is Jonathan Moore. I work at Wyomissing Public Library, and I serve as chair of Spark's cataloging committee. As Katie said, we're lucky enough to have a guest speaker with us this morning, and I will turn things over to him in a moment or two. Before doing that, we just have a couple of very brief general cataloging related housekeeping notes that the committee asked me to share. There we go. First, and again, nothing here is going to be new information if you've gone through the training courses, but just for keeping it generally in everybody's mind. Small percentage of the MARC records in our catalog are stub records. People also call these temporary records or placeholder records. They generally have a title, an author, and a standard number, but not much else. If you are trying to catalog something and you find a stub record, the correct course of action is to overlay the stub record with a better quality MARC record. Please do not just bring in a brand new MARC record. If you do that, that creates duplicates and that just causes trouble for everybody else in Spark. If you're not comfortable with overlaying MARC records, that is more than okay. You can just attach your local holdings to the stub record and wait for somebody else in Spark to overlay it. Or you can reach out to anybody on the cataloging committee or any other Spark catalogers and ask them for help. And second, there's been some discussion on the Spark Cat mailing list over the past week or two concerning issues that have been noticed with merging MARC records. I don't want to go into full detail here about how this works, but we just want to ask that if you do choose to merge records together, please take your time and be careful. Make sure that you don't combine together formats that shouldn't be mixed. Make sure that you don't accidentally unify a regular print edition and a large print edition of the same book, for example. Or if you're about to do a merge and there are elements from a non-lead record that you want to manually add to the lead record after the merge, please just make absolutely sure that you're only copying details that should be added. The bottom line, if there's ever any confusion, before you do anything, reach out to the rest of us Spark catalogers for help. Trust me, you will not be annoying us. We would much rather take the short amount of time it takes to stop a problem from happening, rather than spend the much longer time it takes to fix something after the fact. If you want to know more about either of these topics or see demonstrations of how to do them, Spark has a lot of very excellent support articles and YouTube clips. I will paste those links into the chat box now, and you can take the time to visit them once we're done here today.
And I just will add that please also feel free, I know Jonathan mentioned this earlier, to email the support desk.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And sometimes we'd say, you know what, this is something that's not a cut and dried thing. Let's take it to the listserv. But if you have things that you aren't sure about, or sometimes if you feel more comfortable emailing the support desk, we will send you the links if you want to take care of it yourself. We can take care of it. Also, if you have staff who find things that
Mhm.
aren't catalogers, but they know that something's amiss, they can always turn it into us that way as well if
Oh yeah.
they don't have the permissions. So both ways are good, and we appreciate Jonathan did an incredible amount of work to get to put the videos and everything together. So it's
Mhm.
they're wonderful, and they're a great resource.
Mm. Indeed, yeah. Reach out. It's always okay. We always encourage it. But anyway, we are thrilled to have a guest speaker with us today. Mr. Richard Ashby from Literacy Nation has a presentation for us about how cataloging and metadata impact diverse discovery and the implications that all of that has for diversity, equality, and inclusion in our libraries. So without further ado, I will do my best to turn things over to Mr. Ashby. Go ahead.
Good morning. I'm Richard E. Ashby Jr. I'm his director here at the Sharon Hill Public Library in beautiful downtown Sharon Hill, otherwise known as the outskirts of Philadelphia. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm so excited. Literacy Nation is so excited. I met young people at the conference, and you were so welcoming and so inviting, and we're just glad to be here. So today I'm going to talk about the importance of cataloging metadata in libraries and how it affects diversity and inclusion in our collections. As we all know, cataloging and metadata are critical components of library services. They help users find the resources they need and provide access to wealth of information. But what many people don't realize is that cataloging and metadata also have a significant impact on diversity, equity, inclusion in our libraries. Here at Literacy Nation, we own our own WorldCat subscription, and we have recently started cataloging independent authors, with a majority of them being from marginalized communities. However, we have faced some challenges with cataloging and subject headings. Some of our books were not being properly cataloged because the catalogers did not understand the cultural content of some of our authors. This issue is not unique to us, but this is a problem that affects many libraries. And one of the first problems that we had was with language. So we had an author who wrote a book called All Black Everything. ERRYTHING, All Black Everything. And the cataloger refused to put everything. She said, it's not a word, I'm not writing it. And she cataloged it as All Black Everything, which totally misrepresented the book in the Black community. All everything is a colloquialism, is a word that we use sometimes as just as an ownership of something, everything, it's cultural. And for that cataloger not to understand that was the catastrophe, especially for the author who wrote the book. This issue highlights the importance of having diverse and inclusive team of catalogers who understand the cultural context of the communities we serve. At Literacy Nation, we have taken this into account and have assembled a team of catalogers called IndieCats. So our catalogers are called IndieCats, and they're from Princeton University, Georgia, New York, California, and Connecticut. And they're a diverse group of catalogers, and they love the name IndieCats because they are independent catalogers, and they do what they want to do. When they start cataloging books, and they look into the cultural background of the author and of the book is different. And so we have Latinx catalogers, we have some from the American Indian community, and we're looking to diversify our catalogers so that we can be what we say we are, all inclusive. These catalogers prepare, and with proper cataloging with metadata, which can be significant impact on authors' visibility in the collection. When independent authors see their books in the World Cataloger, it is a powerful moment. So how it happened was, I was a director in New York and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and here in Sharon Hill. And I had been for years trying to get people to help catalog books. But then I realized that, hey, Richard, you're the director. You have a direct impact on books getting into the library. And so then I realized that one of the things that kept books out of the catalog was the collection and development policy. And so we started working with the collection and development policy to get independent authors' books into the library. And once these independent authors saw their books being go to the WorldCat or go to the local library and say, can you look up my book? And some of the books were not being found because they were not cataloged correctly. They didn't have the right subject headings on them. They didn't have the right, they just weren't cataloged correctly. So what we can do as a consortium and as Literacy Nation, we can support diversity and diversity, equity, and inclusion in our collections. One initiative that we can take is to provide training for our cataloging teams. We need to ensure that our teams understand the cultural context of the communities that we serve and the knowledge of the tools of current cataloging. And so what we're proposing is that not only do we look at the metadata that we're using and the subject headings that we're using, let's look at our policies and let's train our catalogers to better understand the communities from which their books that are coming that we'll be cataloging. So this will entail things like to mitigate these issues, it is essential to have diverse, including cataloging team that understand the cultural context of the community they serve, provide training for supportive catalogers to identify and address their own biases as follows cataloger policies and procedures that promote diversity, working with independent authors and engaging with communities to provide valuable insight into the information needed to help ensure the collection's accuracy, represent the voices and the perspectives. So that's a different way of looking at things. So what we do is we sometimes when we're cataloging a book, we don't really understand it or the genre that it's coming from or some of the colloquialisms, we'll call the author. And because we have that direct connect and we'll say, hey, what is this? What does this mean? What is this? Explain this to us. And then that way that book is really being represented. With BU Black, white, Jewish, LBGQ2, we all have biases, and we have to recognize that we have biases. Biases does not equate to racism. Biases is what we have grown up with, what we live with, and what we deal with. So I have a bias against red ties. That don't mean I'm, that doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. I just don't like red ties. But but I like blue ties, whatever. So biases. So some people try to say in cataloging it's racist and it's biases. That's not where we're coming from. These are just biases that we have through our own human experiences. And if we took time and educate ourselves and understand other cultures, and so when we start cataloging these books, we can do better with subject headings and metadata and all of that. And that's it for my presentation. Like I said, we own our own WorldCat subscription, which is tremendous, which means that now a lot of times independent authors go to libraries and they give them that magic piece of paper, which is the collection and development policy. Here you go, sir. Here you go, ma'am. You'll never get your book into this library. And so what we do is we catalog the books with our own subscription. We have our own symbol and WorldCat. And then we encourage our authors to go get their books Kirkus reviewed. And they said, wow, God, it cost $400. Well, you spent $400 on your hair last week. Skip a month, don't get your hair done, don't get your nails done, get your book reviews. Spend money on your book, invest in your book, and then that way the books we'll pull up the perception of independent authors. Now, Literacy Nation is now an affiliate of the American Library Association. And so now we're hoping that libraries will start coming to us to look for authors, because the narrative is we can't find books. You can't find books because they're not being cataloged correctly. You can't find books because they're not being purchased. You can't find books because they're not being reviewed. So we're trying to mitigate all of these check marks as to why these books aren't in the catalog. And so we're hoping that Sparks and with all your wonderful catalogers will say, hey, let's take a deep dive into what we're cataloging and how we're cataloging and some of the subject headings that we're using and how we're using this metadata to mitigate some of the perceptions that there's racism going on in cataloging. And I don't subscribe to that theory at all. I just say we do what we've been doing. We do what we were taught. We do what we learned. No one was born a catalog. We were all taught how to catalog. Okay, and so we're doing what we're taught. But now let's find a better way to be more inclusive. Let's find a better way to do things. And so that's my spiel.
Thank you so much. One of the things that, and I want to ask if anyone else has questions too, but I know one of the things that we've been talking a lot about is foreign language materials, in particular Spanish language materials. Is that something that you all have been, I know you mentioned having some Latinx catalogers. Do you have the bilingual stuff? Yeah.
Yes. So what's happening now is a lot of the Black authors are now having, because the communities are so close, are now having their books translated into Spanish. And that's a push that we will be taking. So during ALA conference in Chicago, one of the things, so it's not technically in the technical, but you know how anytime you see a ship you can jump on for free, you jump on it. And so we're the narrative that we're pushing is that so we have banned and challenged books, right? So the narrative that we're pushing is that independent book authors' books are banned and challenged, which is kind of true, you know, if you stretch it.
Well, yeah. And then I think that self-censorship, the way that libraries self-censor in what they retain, is just as important as the ways that their community tries to censor them, right? Like those are, if not more important, like the ways that we censor ourselves, we can fix that.
Yes, yeah, it doesn't take a lot to fix it. And so in the library here, with the library, and so we cataloged 600 independent author books in Allegheny County. And the reaction to the community was overwhelming. People would walk into the library, they're like, oh my God, I've never seen these books before. Who are these authors? And the books were jumping off the shelves. Mm-hmm. Then I left that library, another director came in and he was like, what is this? I've never heard of these people. And he took the books off the shelves. So he refused to push that catalog, those materials, which is, it's okay because now we're down here in Pennsylvania and Philly, and we have libraries in Texas, Brooklyn, Philadelphia that are signing on to look at some of these authors. Some of these authors are great. People don't know, my good friend, Jerry Craft, he started out as an independent author. Mm-hmm. Jerry was selling books out of his car in New York City. And we were like, dude, you're never gonna make it. And now he's great, you know, and he's still very, very humble. And so I say, in Chicago, in June, we're doing a readathon. It's 6 hours. We're going to be reading banned and challenged books. And all the funds from that readathon will go towards the Merit Foundation, which is the foundation that helps support librarians that are run out of libraries for having banned and challenged books in their libraries. And so Jerry Craft will be there as an author who was an independent author, signing his books, giving away for free. See,
that's great.
If we all figure out a way to catalog these books, and not even just any book, and with the right subject headings and the right metadata on it, it would really, really help getting access to the books. What we don't want to do is we don't want to miscategorize books, miscatalog books, and then they're unaccessible.
Absolutely.
So that's the big thing, is making sure that these records are correct so that they're accessible.
So let me ask you this. Many of our libraries do have WorldCat subscriptions, so those libraries are going to have access to your records directly. And then anything that is in your library's catalog, we're going to ultimately have access to through Access PA. There's a delay on that. Are there other ways that we can get those records? Is there someone we can reach out to if we like have something that we're trying to figure out what to do with?
There, like I said, about 900 books are cataloged in the Allegheny County Library System.
Yeah, so those are all in Access PA, which we have direct access to. So those will be, we'll get those, and then things that are in your
since things are in our catalog, so we only have about 10 in our catalog now because we took a deep dive into the catalog. So when we first started, it was all everybody come. And now we said, okay, let's get serious here, folks. We want to be able to stand behind our books. We want to be able to say this book is properly edited. It's been published. The typeset is right. Everything is right on this book. So a lot of books we refuse to catalog. So we have a company called iReadify. That's a digital platform we use. So we use iReadify, and those are, before any books go in our catalog, now they have to go through a series of librarians and educators to make sure that those books are correct, make sure those books have been properly edited and reviewed. And then and only then will we put those books in our catalog, because Catherine may call me and say, hey, Rich, I got a book. This is horrible. It's missing a lot of misspelling. Who edited this book? And we don't want to do that.
Right.
If we're going to do anything for this community, we're going to say we want the best of the best. And if you want to be in our catalog, you have to have it edited. You have to, and not by your cousin. Now we have one young lady. She said her 15-year-old niece edited her book. Okay, so I tell everybody, your cousin Joni might have graduated second in her class of 13, but that does not make her an editor. And we at Literacy Nation, we have preferred editors, we have preferred vendors, we have preferred illustrators, and illustrations is so very important in these books. We frown upon our authors going over to China and having someone draw Black people. It's just not going to happen in our books. Our illustrators, if you're going to draw a picture of a Black man or a Black child, you should have some type of history of how we want to be depicted. And so we find problems with illustrations a lot of times, and so we don't want our children to see these books with these crazy illustrations of how they're supposed to look with big eyes and all kinds of stuff. Make it, make those illustrations believable, and that represent us in the proper light for our children to see themselves in.
Lene, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, the example that was used about the librarian using everything instead of the colloquial. Could a 246 line be added so that you include both? And then, you know what I'm saying?
She refused to do anything with it.
Oh, all right. Okay.
And I don't have access to Allegheny County.
Okay. Yeah, that, because let's say a title has a contraction. The contraction will be used, and then, like can't, then cannot will be in the title of the 246. Yep. So you still have both. And I thought that's what we were supposed to be doing. Yes. We're not supposed to be just, kind of picking and choosing what titles we use.
So this is great. I am not a cataloger. when I went to school, I got through cataloging with an A-, so I'm not a cataloger. I have catalogers. And so I depend, and what you're saying is absolutely correct. And I don't know how to do it now. To be perfectly transparent, I begged my wife to go back to school to become a cataloger, and she has started. She's at 12 credits. I'm like, honey, I need a catalog in the family. And she's not even a librarian. She's going back to school to become a librarian because I'm like, hey, I need your help. I need a cataloger. And so she's got her 12 credits and she's crying all the way through it, but she's getting A's.
That's great. Yeah, so we had this conversation recently, specifically about some of the 200 fields. So my understanding, and Jonathan and Lene would know better than I would, is the 245 should always be what's on the title page.
245.
Yeah, that, so if it's in Cyrillic characters on the title page, it should be in Cyrillic, like it should be exactly how the author and the publisher and everything intended. Then there are subfields in that field as well as other fields. And what the ILS does is it looks in, so if you have earthing and everything, people can search. If they do a title search, it will look at all of those fields. So if someone comes in and they, or a library staff member types out all black everything, then they're still going to get it. But the 245 is like the sacred. It should be exactly how it is on the title page.
And then we could put in the 246.
Yeah, then there are some other ones for like different translations and stuff like that. But that's how you can have it be discoverable regardless of whether or not the person remembers exactly how it is on the title page.
That is correct. I'm not even going to say an exception to that, but the only slight varying thing that I would say has to do with capitalization. Sometimes, sometimes people will, I mean, if somebody just puts their 15-word title all in caps, there are some rules about how to format that, but that has no impact on discovery, so that plays no role in what we're talking about today.
And I think the rules for capitalization are different in AICR2 than they are in RDA. So so numbers spelled out. So like if it's something where it's fifth and it's 5th, you want to have FIFTH,
right.
And
or the other way around.
Or vice versa. There was another one I saw, or like two DVD sets, you want to have the number as well as the spell it out. So that's it can get a little in the mark record. It can get a little
lengthy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, but that's all stuff that only catalogers are going to see. As far as the public is concerned, they're just going to get the nice clean views. So you might make your staff members' lives a little more confused, but the actual people that you serve, don't worry about that. That'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you just want it. You want them to. You want it to come. You want them to find what they're looking for.
Yeah.
Even if So we're just helping the computers along a little bit.
Okay. So another thing I want to talk about. For example, a book is written by a Black author about racism and police brutality, but it may be given a subject heading like African-American authors or African-American social conditions, instead of a more accurate and specific subject heading like police brutality, United States -history, or racism, United States -history. So sometimes the subject headings are not right. But they're not. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, so this is something that we've been talking a little bit about doing some bulk work on, partially because there are some subject headings that are just not real great, like illegal aliens.
Yes.
Yeah.
So like, so there are some things that we can do at a consortium wide level where we can say, okay, we don't want to use illegal aliens. We want to use
undocumented immigrants, I think.
Thank you. Yeah, the preferred. So we can those things we can change it in batch. And then the other thing that I notice, and this would be something that we could look at as the cataloging committee too, is in Evergreen, when you type in a subject heading, you have the option to link it to the Library of Congress authority, but it has to be one that's been used in our catalog before. So if it's something like police brutality that people are not sure, like, oh, like, should I be that, direct in the subject headings? Then if they don't see that when they pull up the search for the authority, they're going to be less likely, or I would be less likely to use it, because then they've got to sort of go, they're like, well, I'm going to go over to Library of Congress and see what the correct heading is and then come back. And so we could look at some of the preferred terms, and make sure that those authority records are already loaded for us. And then as we go through and do batch data work, then we have the opportunity to continue to update those too. So I would be curious, Richard, if you wanted to reach out to some of your catalogers and say, what are underused subject headings? What are subject headings that people should have access to, so that they can feel confident, when they add a subject heading, that they're using something that's going to improve discoverability.
I definitely will. So how can Literacy Nation and SPARC collaborate on anything or work together anyway? Because I love you guys.
Well, so yeah, I think we should continue to have participation in these events. And I think that as your group identifies topics that, things, like authority records, things like, what are the things that we should be talking about? Because we do ongoing professional development for catalogers like this. And the cataloging committee meets quarterly, and they do cleanup projects, and they do, they could look for particular authors. Or so I think what's really helpful for us is to hear what are the things that we should be looking for, what are the things that we should be thinking about, because they're hard.
So our lead cataloger, Miss Jennifer Baxmeyer, out of Princeton University, I would love for her to come and meet with you all. She's the head indie cat, and
I love that so much.
I know. I don't know. I just came up with it one night. I keep waking my wife up with different names. Like I woke her up with Literacy Nation, and then I woke her up with our motto is with literacy and justice for all. Because America tells you with liberty and justice, but without literacy, you will receive no justice. That's financial literacy, that's medical literacy, that's any discipline of literacy. Without literacy, you receive no justice. So you can run around all day long. With liberty and justice, you're free to what? Free to not know. So we say live with literacy and justice. And then we came up with indie cats. And
yeah, I would love for her to do an event with her. That would be fantastic. Other Jonathan, other people, things that you'd like to know more about, things you'd like to hear more about.
Well, nothing really specifically at the moment is popping up, but I mean, Richard, I really appreciate what you've said. And yeah, I mean, generally, yeah, if you're cataloging a book and you as a cataloger don't have personal knowledge of the subject, reaching out to experts is definitely a thing to do. If you can contact the author, that's a great way to go. If not, reach out to other people that know more than you. There's nothing wrong with not knowing about stuff. Other catalogers, other librarians, other patrons, or people in your community. The more thoughts, the more knowledge that you can get, the better it's going to serve the people that you.
That's what we do. We're talking about reaching out to the people in the community and reaching out to the author and just getting more knowledge before you catalog that book.
I also was wondering about subject headings, since we're on the topic, in terms of like some terminology over years ceases to be used, over time. Then like a lot of years ago, Afro-Americans were used, but then that becomes you know, like not a term used anymore. So then it becomes African American. So I guess there has to be a review of what's acceptable terminology over the years. And I think if enough people realize that information is inaccurate, then do we approach Library of Congress? I mean, you know, how do we get that change, you know, so that everybody's on the same page?
Interesting. I haven't even heard the phrase Afro-American since 1974.
Right. But that's what was in our catalogs for a long time.
And it's very possible that if you're cataloging, if you have a book that was written back in that time period, it's very possible that no cataloger in the 50 odd years since then has had the time to edit or change that. So, yeah.
A lot of it does get, so Lene, once the Library of Congress does change, and they lag behind the times, I would say. And there is, and I should have looked it up before this. I think they did finally change it from illegal aliens to undocumented immigrants, but there was a lot of lobbying that went on, and a lot of noise in the community of librarians saying this is not okay. And it seemed very public to me, which I think is good. I think Library of Congress maybe could have been a little bit more agile on that one, but they got there. So if those things, when we do authority projects, it will, if it exactly matches the old heading, then it will get updated.
Yeah.
And we've been working on this for author names, where we're making sure that Elliot Page was the one that started the conversation, that we're not only updating the authority records, but we're also going in and editing the 100 fields to reflect the preferred name that the author uses. So as they change in Library of Congress, then they will start to get updated in our catalog through the authority projects that we do. But if we want to be ahead of where the Library of Congress is, we can choose that. So when we do the authority updates, we can say, this is, we want to take this, even though it's the LOC one, we want to change this phrase to this phrase. So that's one of the ways that we can effectively, then we're also like, the companies like Backstage, which is who we use for authority control, then they're hearing this is what people are doing, and it increases awareness. So that's, I mean, you can always write a letter to Carla Hayden. I don't object to that, right. But
and she's very approachable.
Yeah. And I think that with her leadership, we've seen more adaptability.
And we have a direct connection to Literacy Nation. We have catalogers from Library of Congress that's working with us, you know, unofficially helping us out.
Jacob, I want you to talk to us, not right now, but Jacob, I'm gonna out him, as he sent me a direct message about using other thesauri. There are other you know, we use Library of Congress, there's one we use for like Spanish subject headings. There are other ones that are more socially progressive. So the cataloging committee can absolutely talk about that. Okay. There are a number of options. Absolutely email either, if you want to start with the cataloging list to start that conversation, absolutely. That is where the conversation will need to happen. I mean, the cataloging committee would need to be in support of anything that we do. If you want to start with the support desk, say, this is something I'm thinking about, have you talked about this? Then, you know, we can start that a more private conversation with us and Jonathan. But if you're comfortable, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to go to the listserv if it's something that they want to keep a little closer. So either the listserv if you're comfortable, or Jonathan personally, me personally, Elizabeth personally, as being the person who would do the support tickets. So, and if you want to email Kat, hasn't as much cataloging background as the rest of us, but she'll be happy to talk about it. So yeah, there's as Richard says, there's lots of work to be done. And the way that we handle it as a consortium is we want it, we do some things kind of top down. Like there was a punctuation thing that we changed in the like mark summary display. But things like this, we want it to be community driven. That's what, and we're here to support what our catalogers want to do. And so the cataloging committee is absolutely the right place for that.
I think this is a great organization. Like I said, I did my research, talked to people, and you ladies and gentlemen are doing some great work. I'm glad to see it's happening in Pennsylvania, and cutting edge, and you seem so willing to do a deep dive into what you're doing. You know, you're not like, we're doing it right, we got it, we got all the answers. No, you're like, we're going to take deep dives and we're going to figure this out. And Jonathan, you're scary. You're one of the most, between Lillian and you, you guys are scary with your knowledge.
Yeah, that's how you know a cataloger is that they have that brain where they keep all those connections together.
I know Miss Liana over there, she's deep. I haven't heard Afro-American. For those who don't know, Afro was a hairstyle. So we say a hairstyle American. Is that who we are? No. So thank you all so very much for having me here. Looking forward to seeing you all again. And the Poconos.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We will be there. We'll be exhibiting. Right. And will you be doing a poster session again, Richard?
No, we're doing a session on the importance and relevancy of having diverse books in your collection.
Okay, wonderful. Yes. So we will highlight that for our catalogers. We also have Elizabeth Davis is doing a session with a number of other professionals around collection development policies.
Oh, fantastic.
So I think that we can I won't speak for Elizabeth because it's not my presentation, but definitely these are the things that are going to come up is you know, how do you have balance in your collection development policy? You need a means to not have everything, but exclusions have consequences, right? So yeah. What, you know, how do you
the biggest pet peeve for me in the collection development policy when they write we'll accept local authors. Come on, ma'am, sir. You have 3 authors in your community. You know, we'll accept local authors. What's a local author? You know, that's so. Sometimes these catalog, these collection and development management policies are like voting in Mississippi for a Black man in 1954. It's just not going to happen. These policies are made to keep books out of the library. They have to be done over again, revised, looked at, and reevaluated. Some of these collection and development policies are just absolutely ridiculous.
And that is what we're hoping to highlight, is that they do need to be updated regularly, not every 20 years. So, and Jonathan will be on that panel as well. So we're going to have a good representation.
I'll definitely be there. I'm going to heckle Jonathan no matter what he says.
Well, and that there, Kathy Furman from the State College Area School District is there as well. So they will talk about both about school libraries and about public libraries. And do you have an academic too? Or is it
just? We have Sylvia Orner from the University.
Wonderful.
Oh,
right. One of my favorite Spark alumni. So yeah, so that'll be a great one. And Richard, I hope you can attend that and offer some of the things that you've learned. Yeah.
Yes, I will be there. Well, thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
And have a wonderful day and happy Mother's Day.
Oh, yeah.
To the mothers.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us. If you can follow up with introducing me to your lead cataloger, then Jonathan and I can get started on that, and we'll continue to work together.
Okay, have a blessed day, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jonathan,
do you have any other wrap-up items?
I do not know. I'm happy to stick around if other people have questions, but that's it in terms of original content from me.
Okay.
So.
Wonderful. Yeah, we'll hang out.